What if the place you came hoping for a new beginning became the place where your child's heart broke first? The wind howled across the wide Montana prairie as Faith Summers pulled her tired wagon to a stop at the edge of Redemption Creek. Her hands shook from the long journey, but she squeezed her 5-year-old daughter Emma's hand gently. She had to be strong. Emma had already lost so much. "Mama, are we home now?" Emma asked, her small voice almost lost in the wind. Faith forced a warm smile even though her chest tightened. "Yes, sweetheart. This is where we start again." The dusty main street stretched ahead of them. A general store, a livery, a church, and 3 loud saloons stood like weary guards. The Montana Territory of 1877 was no place for the faint-hearted, but Faith had come with nothing left except a fragile hope. Her husband Thomas had died 18 months ago. Tuberculosis took him slowly and painfully, leaving Faith with memories, a curious daughter, and no money. A cousin she barely knew, Martha Jenkins, owned a boarding house here. She had written to Faith, offering a roof until she found work. It was enough to make Faith gamble everything on a new start. The boarding house appeared exactly where the letter had promised. A faded blue 2-story home with a humble garden out front. Before Faith could lift Emma down, the door burst open and a plump woman in her 50s hurried outside. "You must be Thomas's widow," she called. "I'd know those Summers eyes anywhere. I'm Martha Jenkins." Faith felt her throat tighten. "Faith Summers," she said softly. "And this is Emma." Martha knelt and smiled at the shy little girl. "Hello, Miss Emma. I've got warm cookies inside. Does that sound nice?" Emma nodded, clutching Faith's skirt. As they stepped inside, a loud commotion echoed down the street. Cowboys rode in with dust swirling under their horses' hooves. Martha watched them with raised eyebrows. "The Circle T Boys," she explained. "Ranch hands from the largest ranch in the county. Their boss, Yates Turner, keeps them in line. Mostly." Faith noticed one rider who didn't follow the others to the saloon. He rode slow, shoulders tall, quiet. Something about him made Faith look twice, though she quickly dismissed it. She wasn't here for any cowboy. Inside the boarding house, Martha led them to a small room with 2 narrow beds and a window facing the garden. It felt warm and safe. After weeks of wagon travel, it felt like heaven. That night, they ate stew with the other boarders and listened to Martha's gentle chatter. For the first time in months, Faith felt her lungs loosen a little. The next morning, after washing Emma's hair and dressing her neatly, Faith walked to the mayor's office about the teaching job Martha had mentioned. Her heart pounded as she handed Mayor Wilson her teaching certificate. She needed this job desperately. He studied the paper, nodded, then stood. "School term begins soon. Come, I'll show you the schoolhouse." Faith followed him down a dusty path to a 1-room building with a bell on top. Inside, sunlight filtered through tall windows, illuminating rows of wooden desks, a stove in the corner, and a chalkboard waiting for a teacher's hand. "This will be your home, too," the mayor said, leading her behind the building to a small cabin. 2 rooms, a well, basic, but good. Faith stepped inside and felt something loosen in her chest. This could be theirs, a real home, a place to rebuild. Later, at the general store, she planned to buy Emma a little treat to celebrate. The store was busy with miners, ranchers, and families. Faith kept Emma close as she quietly counted their remaining coins. The door opened, and the tall rider she'd noticed earlier stepped inside. He removed his hat, revealing thick, dark hair and wind-touched skin. His green eyes scanned the store calmly. Emma accidentally bumped into him. "Sorry, mister," she said shyly. He knelt to her height with a warm smile. "No harm done, little lady. Picking a treat?" Faith hurried over. I'm sorry if she bothered you, sir." He stood and touched his hat respectfully. "Not at all. Name's Yates Turner." Faith nodded. "Faith Summers. And this is Emma." Before he could say more, 3 local boys burst into the store, noisy and careless. They spotted Emma near the candy barrel. "Who's she?" one asked. "New girl," another said. "Hey, where's your pa?" Emma froze. Her small fingers gripped her dress. Faith stepped closer. "Emma, come choose a candy." But Sam Wilson, the mayor's son, smirked. "My pa says kids without fathers grow up wrong. That true?" Emma's lip trembled. "My papa, he's in heaven." "Oh," Sam said loudly. "So you ain't got a real one?" Faith's face flushed with pain and anger. "That's enough." The store fell quiet. Then the tall cowboy stepped forward. Yates Turner knelt down so he was eye level with Emma, his voice steady and warm. "Miss Emma," he said, "that's not true at all. And as for not having a father—" He paused, looking straight into her tear-filled eyes. "You have one now." The room went still. Emma blinked in confusion. "I do?" Yates nodded gently. "A father is someone who protects you, someone who makes sure you're safe, someone who shows up. If your mama allows it, I'd be honored to be a friend to you both." Faith's breath caught. His words weren't romantic or dramatic. They were simple, steady, sincere, something she hadn't heard in a long time. He rose to face the boys. "Sam Wilson, your father would be disappointed to hear you speak that way. A man is judged by how he treats others." Sam's smirk vanished. Mr. Caldwell shooed the boys away, but Emma still stared at Yates, wide-eyed, as if trying to understand the gift he had just placed into her small, wounded heart. "Mr. Yates," she whispered, "can I really?" Faith's breath shuddered. Yates smiled softly. "You already have my promise, little lady." And that was the moment everything in Faith. Summer's life began to change. Faith barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Yates Turner kneeling in the general store, speaking to Emma with a gentleness Faith hadn't expected from any man, let alone a stranger. His words replayed in her mind like a quiet echo. "You have one now." What had he meant? Why had he said it? And why had her heart reacted as if someone had finally lifted a weight she didn't know she carried? The next days moved quickly. Faith spent her time preparing the schoolhouse, scrubbing the floors, opening dusty windows, and organizing the few books the town had managed to keep. Emma followed her everywhere, talking about Yates almost non-stop. "Mama, he smells like pine trees," she said once while arranging chalk on the windowsill. "And he talks soft like Papa did." Faith paused, clutching a stack of readers. Her daughter remembered her father in tiny pieces now, a laugh, a voice, a smell. She didn't know whether to be grateful or heartbroken. "We don't know Mr. Turner well yet," Faith reminded gently. "He was just being kind." "Kind like a papa," Emma said simply. Faith didn't have an answer for that. 3 days later, while Faith swept dust from the schoolhouse steps, she heard hoofbeats approaching. She looked up, expecting another ranch hand or a passing traveler, but her breath caught. Yates Turner rode toward them, tall and steady in his saddle, leading a horse-drawn cart loaded with chopped firewood. Emma squealed. "Mr. Yates!" Faith tried not to stare as he dismounted with quiet ease. "Afternoon, Mrs. Summers," he said, touching the brim of his hat. "Thought you might need some wood before the cold sets in." "That's very generous," Faith said, though her voice caught slightly. "But you didn't have to bring so much." He shrugged lightly. "Winters here bite hard. I won't have you two freezing out here." Emma tugged at his coat. "Whistle likes you too." "Whistle?" Yates raised an eyebrow. "Our new cat," Emma explained proudly. "She sleeps on Mama's feet at night." Faith exhaled a small laugh. A stray. Emma insisted we keep her. Smart cat, Yates said with a wink. He helped stack the wood neatly beside the cabin, working with steady, quiet strength. Faith watched him from the doorway, unsure why her stomach fluttered at the simple sight of a man doing hard work. Maybe it was the ease with which he moved. Maybe the calm presence he seemed to carry with him. Or maybe it was how naturally he treated Emma, as though her joy mattered to him. When he finished, he dusted off his gloves. "Would you both join me for Sunday dinner at the ranch?" he asked suddenly. Faith blinked. "Dinner?" "Unless that's too bold," he said gently. "It's just a meal. Mrs. Abernathy, the housekeeper, makes a fine roast, and Emma can meet the kittens in the barn." "Kittens?" Emma gasped, like she'd just found heaven. "Mama, please." Faith hesitated. A dinner invitation felt personal, too personal. But Emma's hopeful eyes tugged at her heart, and something quiet in Yates's expression made her believe he wasn't trying to pressure her, just being kind, just wanting company. "Thank you," Faith finally said. "We would like that." Yates's smile was soft and grateful. "I'll send a buggy for you after church." As he rode off, Emma twirled in excitement. "I knew he liked us," she whispered. Faith wasn't so sure, but some part of her hoped Emma was right. Sunday arrived with clear skies and a chilly breeze. After church, the ranch buggy arrived, and soon they were riding toward the Circle T Ranch. Faith had expected a modest spread, like others she'd seen in the territory. But she gasped softly when the house came into view. It was large, built of timber and stone, with a broad porch and a wide yard where men worked horses with practiced skill. A barn stood tall behind it, and the field stretched endlessly under the bright sky. "It's beautiful," Faith whispered without meaning to. Yates appeared on the porch, smiling as they approached. "Welcome to the Circle T," he said, helping Emma down as though she were something delicate and precious. Inside, the warmth and smell of roasting beef wrapped around them. Mrs. Abernathy bustled out, scolding Yates for letting the cold in, then scooping Emma up into a hug as if she'd known her forever. The afternoon passed in a glow of simple happiness. After dinner, Yates showed Emma the kittens, 5 tiny bundles of furs squeaking inside a soft nest of hay. Emma held one carefully, her eyes shining. "Look, Mama," she whispered. "It's like she loves me." Faith swallowed hard. Emma's little heart was healing piece by piece, sometimes in small ways like this, sometimes in bigger ways. Ways that looked an awful lot like Yates Turner. Later, when the sun dipped low, Yates walked Faith and Emma to the buggy. Emma leaned against his leg sleepily. "Thank you," Faith said softly. "This meant a great deal to her, to both of us." Yates nodded. "I'm glad you came." His eyes lingered on hers a moment longer than necessary, warm and quiet and searching. Faith looked away quickly, her heart thudding. She wasn't ready for this. She wasn't ready for a man like him to look at her that way. But as she held Emma close during the ride home, she knew one thing with certainty. Yates Turner was becoming someone important. Maybe more important than she was prepared for. Snow clouds gathered over the Montana hills as winter crept closer, but inside the little schoolhouse, warmth grew day by day. Faith had settled into her role as teacher. Emma thrived among her classmates, and Whistle the cat had claimed a permanent spot on Emma's pillow every night. And Yates Turner, he had become a steady part of their lives. He stopped by the cabin with firewood, repairs, vegetables from his garden, and sometimes just stories to make Emma laugh. The visits always felt natural, never forced, and yet Faith's heart beat faster every time she saw his tall frame walking up the path. She had told herself Yates was simply kind, but deep down she knew it was more than that. One late afternoon, as Faith graded lessons by lamplight and Emma practiced her letters, a familiar knock sounded on the door. Emma jumped up immediately. "It's Mr. Yates!" she cried. Faith felt the warmth rise in her cheeks. "Slow down, sweetheart." But Emma was already opening the door. Yates stepped inside, brushing snow from his shoulders. "Evenin', ladies," he said with a smile that made Faith's breath catch. "Thought I'd check on my favorite teacher and her star pupil." Emma proudly showed him her writing, and he admired every crooked letter. Then he handed Faith a wrapped parcel. "What is this?" she asked. "Something the school board approved last night," he said. "Thought you'd want it right away." Quote, inside was a full set of new readers, the very ones she had begged the mayor for. Faith stared at them, overwhelmed. "Yates, thank you. These will help the children so much." His eyes softened. "Anything for you and Emma." Before Faith could reply, Emma tugged his sleeve. "Mr. Yates, can I show you something? Whistle learned a new trick." He chuckled. "A cat with tricks? That I have to see." As Emma demonstrated how Whistle chased a string and then climbed onto her lap on command, Faith watched Yates watch her daughter. His expression was tender, protective, almost fatherly. Something inside her heart shifted. After a while, Emma began nodding sleepily, her head resting against Yates's arm. Faith gently lifted her. "Time for bed, sweetheart." Yates rose too, placing his hat over his chest. "I should be heading out." Faith walked him to the door. The cold air rushed in, swirling snowflakes around them. Yates hesitated, then spoke softly. "Faith, may I ask you something?" Her heart thumped. "Yes?" He held her gaze, steady and warm. "Do you trust me?" Quote. Faith swallowed. "Yes." "Do you feel safe with me?" She nodded slowly. "I do." "And Emma?" "She adores you," Faith whispered. Yates exhaled like he had been holding that breath for weeks. "Then I'd like to court you properly, with your permission." Faith froze. The world seemed to go quiet except for the snowfall. "Yates," she whispered. I'm not sure I'm ready. Emma lost one father already. I can't let anyone into her life unless I know it's for good." Yates stepped closer, but gently, leaving space between them. "That day in the store," he said softly, "when I knelt and told Emma she had a father now, I meant every word. Maybe I didn't understand it then, but I do now. I would never walk away from her, or you." Faith felt tears fill her eyes. "Why us?" Yates smiled in that quiet, earnest way she was beginning to love. "Because when I look at you, I see a woman with strength and kindness I've never known. And when I look at Emma, I see the little girl I want to protect for the rest of my life." Faith's breath trembled. "I don't want to rush." Quote. "We won't," he said gently. "We'll move at your pace. I just want the chance to show you the life we could build together." Faith looked up into his green eyes, and for the first time since her husband died, she felt her heart open, carefully, cautiously, but undeniably. She nodded. "Yes, Yates, you can court me." A smile spread across his face, slow, relieved, beautiful. "Thank you," he whispered. But before he could step back, a small voice sounded from behind them. "Mr. Yates?" Emma stood in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Yates knelt instantly, just like he had in the store that first day. "Yes, Miss Emma? Are you going to be my papa now?" Faith's breath caught, but Yates placed his large hand gently over Emma's small one. "If your mama agrees," he said softly, "then, yes, someday I hope to be." Emma wrapped her arms around him in a sleepy hug. "I want that." Yates hugged her back with a tenderness that made Faith's heart ache in the best way. When he finally rose, he looked at Faith with a promise in his eyes. Not rushed, not forced, just true. "I'll see you both tomorrow," he said. And when he walked into the snow, Faith knew her life had changed. Not in a loud, sudden way, but in a quiet, steady way. Just like Yates Turner himself. 3 months later, under a soft spring sky, Yates knelt again, but this time before Faith, holding a simple gold ring and asking her to marry him. She said yes. Emma cried happy tears. And the man who had once knelt in a general store and promised a father to a little girl kept that promise every day for the rest of his life.